talking about some exclusive NBC News reporting about a man who spent more than 2.5 years in a Mississippi jail waiting for a trial that actually never happened. Sinatra Jordan had been accused of shooting at 2 police officers, setting off an intense car chase through the streets of Jackson in August of 2022. Officers opening fire on the car that Jordan was driving. It ended with Jordan's friend, who was in the passenger seat, getting shot in the head. She had to get multiple surgeries to remove the bullet from her brain. From jail, Jordan told investigators what happened. I want you to listen to the audio of that recording obtained by NBC News.
Them folks started shooting for no reason. So if you ran, you wouldn't know what to do. Somebody just up and get to shooting.
So Jordan's version is very different from what one of the officers involved in the incident said.
You could hear shots real loud at that time because we were going a reduced speed because of the tires, and they slowed down.
But here's the crazy part of it all. The case took this dramatic turn back in December of last year when the officers were each indicted by a grand jury in Jordan's case. Then, on March 11th, Jordan was able to strike a plea deal and walk free. The shooting charges against him were, in fact, dropped. NBC's John Shupe, did I say your name correctly?
You did.
Okay, good.
Thank you.
Worked on this exclusive reporting, speaking to Jordan regularly throughout this entire ordeal. You were there the moment that he walked free, right, after spending 2.5 years in jail, no trial, nothing, literally not. I mean, your reporting is so incredible because you talk about how at one point he was asking you for updates, not right, really even knowing what was going on with his case as he sat behind bars, just kind of waiting.
Well, this is what was so interesting about this. We were looking into several shootings that the Capitol Police were involved in Jackson.
Yeah.
And this one stuck out because Sinatra Jordan was in jail on the shooting and nothing was happening in his case. So over time, it became not just what happened in the shooting, but why is he in jail for so long?
How did it turn then to the officers? Like that's the key here. So they were going after Sinatra Jordan. They were saying, okay, the way in which you told the story is not true, is not accurate. The officers are telling us that you shot at them. They were chasing you, hence why you're now being incarcerated and awaiting trial. And yet then suddenly on a dime, it turns and the officers are being indicted. Do we know what evidence led to that change?
No, I tried to figure out. I got access to a lot of evidence in the case, and there was nothing explicitly in the evidence that I had that pointed to something explicitly that the officers had done wrong. But when a grand jury deliberates, that's all confidential, sealed, the public can't see it, so we don't know exactly what happened inside the grand jury chambers.
So he's not the only one that's being held in a Mississippi jail for an inordinate amount of time without any trial. There are some kind of rules to all this, though, as well. In Mississippi, you got criminal cases that have to go to trial no later than 270 days after a defendant is indicted and arraigned. But they can basically be held indefinitely if they're waiting for that indictment, right?
Correct. Mississippi is one of only a handful of states in which there's no limit to the amount of time that you can wait between arrest and indictment before that 270-day clock starts ticking. And then, of course, after that clock starts ticking, even though there are, just like any state, speedy trial laws, there's any number of reasons why that clock can be paused and trials can be delayed indefinitely.
Wow. I know that your reporting has had a major impact as well on some policy changes in Mississippi. And I want you to walk us through that because these officers that were involved in this shooting, they were kind of a part of this task force in the streets of Jackson, Mississippi, right? And since your reporting emerged, I believe it was in 2023, there have been some policy changes in the way in which these officers, this task force, goes about its work.
Right. When this task force started working in Jackson, it was a big change for them.
Yeah.
They hadn't gotten basic equipment, body cameras, dashboard cameras, and also had outdated policies to reflect modern police standards, including how and when you can use deadly force. And so after we started reporting on these shootings in 2023, the policies were changed and updated.
How is he doing right now? How's Jordan doing?
I think he's slowly getting used to regular life. He's now got some charges on his record as a result of the plea deal.
Yeah.
He's got to find a job, get an ID, all these very basic
parole.
Things.
Yeah.
Yes, it's going to be hard for him to get.
Prohibitive for a lot of folks when you're on parole, what you do with your life. Yeah. John Shupe, really important stuff. Thank you. Appreciate it.
Thanks for watching. Stay updated about breaking news and top stories on the NBC News app or follow us on.
So, Sinatra Jordan is out riding with a friend, a female friend. They're out riding. According to him, they're out riding, minding their business. Then the police get behind them and start shooting at them. There's a chase. They're caught by the police, jailed. Sinatra Jordan's friend, the female, was shot in the head. Spent 2 years in jail. Case dismissed. Nobody telling them anything. Nobody telling them anything. That's crazy. So I got an article. We're gonna get a little more details on it. But you know what, Shabazz? You like the second or third person to tell me that about Cashapp, about being blocked on Cashapp. Yeah, I think Cashapp might do be hating. I really do believe, because you like the second or third person told me that. Email me, Shabazz. I'm gonna put my email in the chat. Let me put my email in the chat. Email me, my brother, so we can talk more about that. We got to get that straightened out. Oh, yeah. I appreciate that, William. I mean, but you know, the system is what it is. The system is going to, well, the people who maintain the system are going to do what they need to do to remain dominant. And even if it means taking the life of Black people or anybody who's standing in their way, right? Or ruining the life, just like in this case with Sinatra Jordan, right? So it's been 940 days and he wasn't going to linger. That's how this article started. Sinatra Jordan, who's 32, was dressed in the same blue t-shirt and dark denim shorts he'd been wearing when he was brought to the jail on August 15th, 2022. Accused of starting a car chase and firing at police, Jordan insisted that he did not have a weapon, and there hasn't been any evidence to prove that he had a weapon. He said that the officers had shot into the car without provocation, a bullet striking his friend in the passenger seat, and a mother of 5 who was left seriously injured. So the woman who was struck was a mother of 5. As months passed with no trial, no hearing, no updates, and rare interactions with his lawyers, there were many times along and despairing in jail when he wondered if anyone was listening. Because now we're talking about the reinforcement of their dominance in a more systematic way. Because it's like either Sinatra Jordan was just some random person that they decided to pick off, or they picked them for some other reasons because of things that he'd done that they were unhappy with. But either way, they decided to ruin this man's life. Either way, they decided to ruin this man's day, his life, and try to lock him up. They tried to take his life. They tried to take his life, and when they couldn't take his life, they tried to make sure that he could never see the light of day again by getting locked up, right? The only way another devil or bootlicking supporters of the devils and fools of this earth can ride you, if you keep bending over as to make it extremely, exactly. That's why we got to stop being soft and stop allowing them to step on us. Because at this point, we're allowing them to step on us. So you're exactly right about that, William, that we're allowing them to step on us. Then in an extraordinary turn, so they're saying after 2 years of sitting in jail, a turn happened when the blame had shifted from Sinatra Jordan to the officers, right? And then the case against Jordan was dropped. Now he was free. And the lawyer or supporters of Sinatra Jordan is saying, I was there to greet him on the evening of March 11th, and I hope to understand what exactly had happened the night of the shooting and why he had languished behind the bars for so long, right? I'd spent years reporting on a string of shootings by the Mississippi Capitol Police, including this one. The force had mostly provided security for government buildings until 3 summers ago when the governor deployed officers to the streets of Jackson to tamp down crime. Jordan and I had communicated regularly, first by letter, then by phone, as he had waited for a trial that never came. He often asked me for news about his case, which I was unable to provide. I just wanted to go home, he'd tell me. So basically, he is not getting any information on what's going on with him. No why, no when, no where, no how. And he's resulting to having to question a news reporter about what's going on with him, as if the news reporter has the information that he needs. And if the news reporter does have information that he needs and nobody else is telling him anything, it's a specific reason why they're choosing to put this man in this position. One opinion was to admit guilt and hope for an early release. Jordan would not. He insisted the police had lied, but without proof. It was his words against theirs. Even after the officers were arrested and accused of unlawfully firing on Jordan's car, which they denied, the evidence against them remained a secret to Jordan and his lawyers, right? The investigative file, which I obtained after Jordan's case was resolved, included hundreds of pages of notes, recordings of interviews, detailed evidence, and witness information. It was a rare look inside the mechanisms of a criminal case. It's a rare look inside the mechanisms of a criminal enterprise, if you ask me. No information, no evidence. Where's the gun? If Sinatra Jordan was shooting at officers, where's the gun? Where are the bullet casings? Where are they? Were any cop cars hit? Are there any bullets in any cop cars? Because there's ways to prove that somebody had a gun and fired a gun. We know that. We know that by now. We know enough about guns and forensics and stuff to know that we can tell if somebody has actually discharged a gun. So where's that information? And so this 2 years of this man's life just taken away from him just because a couple punk ass police officers felt like doing some bullshit. Right? And so once again, that made me think, like, did they have a vendetta out on him? Or was it just something was it some initiation thing for them and the white supremacist police groups that they may be a part of? Because of course, this is white supremacy stuff. Why wouldn't it be white supremacy? You just pick random black man and shoot at him. First they tried to take him out. Let's not overshadow that. They initially tried to take him out. Almost took his friend out. Initially tried to take him out, physically take him out with a gun. And then that resulted to having him locked up because, like the report said, they were hoping that he would be something that would be forgotten and just thrown away. And jailed, forgotten and just thrown away. And by the time they come back to it, it's too late. That's what I do believe. I do agree with the reporter. That's one of the motives that they had. But it all flipped on them and the whole case was just thrown out. And I'm not sure what's happening with the police officers. Let's see what he's saying. Oh, messy. Everybody out here in the YouTube streets ain't real. Now, pick up in the article, it says, but there was no gotcha. As it turned out, Jordan's ordeal was the result of an opaque and overburdened criminal justice system where judges, prosecutors, investigators, and court-appointed defense lawyers are struggling to keep pace with the tide of cases, perpetuating delays, and forced defendants to wait for years for their day in court and postpone justice for victims. I mean, he should have never been jailed. Should have never been in there. What were the charges? What were the claims? Okay, you say he shot at the police officers. Where is the gun? Where's the gun? Because it's never been found, right? Jordan says, I'm stressful, not knowing where you're coming home, not knowing where you'll be able to see the judge. I attended his final court appearance and then waited for Jordan outside the jail. He emerged holding an armload of court papers, still wearing his jail suit and slides. I told him it was nice to meet him in person. Jordan grinned hesitantly as if he weren't quite sure this was real. Yes, sir, he replied. It's been a long time. The night of August 14, 2022 began with a casual drive, according to Jordan telling. He and a friend, Sharita Harris, so that's the friend who was shot in the head, Sharita Harris, were cruising downtown Jackson with no goal other than to relax. So according to Sinatra Jordan, him and his homegirl were just out cruising, chilling, doing their thing, ain't bothering nobody. Harris had rented the car, a Nissan Rogue with Arizona plates. After hers was damaged, Jordan was driving even though he had suspended license. So shouldn't have been driving with a suspended license, but that doesn't warrant a shootout. I've seen plenty of videos, plenty of cop cam videos of all types of people, black and white people, who were driving with suspended licenses and were able to be let go free depending on their behavior, right? He'd grown up in a nearby working class neighborhood, the only son of a single mother. Jordan graduated from high school and studied business at a community college with dreams of starting an aftercare program for school children, he said. But he couldn't balance school and work, so he dropped out and took service industry jobs. Wendy's, McDonald's, Home Goods. He lived with his mother in the house where he was raised. Jordan and Harris had known each other for years, but only recently began hanging out. She was 38 and had just started a job managing a charter school cafeteria. As they drove down the street that evening, an unmarked cop car pulled up behind them and flashed its lights. The Capitol Police officers inside were members of a new street crimes unit focused on intercepting guns, drugs, and stolen cars. They had no body or dash cam cameras in their policies. And so their policies were outdated as well. No dashboard cameras, no body cameras, no evidence, no nothing. So I believe this sounds like some kind of gang initiation. That's what it sounds like, some kind of gang initiation, right? As he moved into the right lane, Jordan said the police suddenly opened fire. No warning. According to Jordan, no warning, no thing. They pull up behind them. As he pulled into the right lane, they just start firing at them. That sounds like gang initiation to me. I don't know about you all, white supremacy gang initiation for them specifically, but I know that sounds like gang initiation. He looked over at Harris, who was slumped over and covered in blood. She'd been struck in the head, panicked that he too would be shot. He said he drove off to get to safety. Jordan made his way to his neighborhood about a mile northwest. I was just confused and didn't know what to do, he said. I mean, if a bus of people pull up behind you in an unmarked car and just start busting, what would you do? In an unmarked car, did they put their lights on? Did they put the sirens on? If you pull up in an unmarked car and just start busting on somebody, how the hell are they supposed to know you the police? Because that's not what the police do. Or is that what the police do and we're just mistaken because we're in the matrix? Yes, Ronnie. Yes, Ronnie. Law enforcement are a part of the reinforcement of the white dominance. They are an arm of the reinforcement of the white dominance because they have to remind us who's in control and who has the power, because at any time, any point in time, they can take away our freedom if they choose to. They've been doing this to black men forever. Remember the chain gangs in the early 1900s. Remember the vagrancy laws and the loitering laws and all these crazy ass laws that were put in to remind black men that at any point in time, we can snatch your freedom from you. At any point in time, we can make you bend on your knees and praise us and worship us as your masters. At any point in time, we can ruin your life. At any point in time, we can reinforce our white supremacy. At any point in time. But in the refinement of white supremacy, it's not going to be as blatant as it was. The Klan not just going to ride up on you. Now, depending on where you are, but for the most part, the Klan not just going to ride up on you and just start busting. They're going to systematically ruin us, just like they're doing with Sinatra. guess they didn't like his name, or I don't know. He pulled over at Lamar and Adele Streets, then got out and ran. Of course, somebody busting at him and he don't know who it is. He didn't get far before he was arrested. Harris said she remembers Julian telling her police lights were flashing behind them, but nothing more. Okay, so police lights were flashing. So police lights are flashing. Let's say he pulling over to the next lane. I'm assuming to stop, and then they start busting. Both were taken to a hospital. Jordan was treated for cuts on his head and sent to Raymond Detention Center in jail. He asked how Harris was doing. According to a recording obtained by NBC News, an investigator told him Harris was in surgery. I hope she's all right, he said, his voice crackling. Yeah. Do you remember Shabazz? Me, Pat, and PC did a breakdown like a year and a half ago about the Goon Squad. I can't remember what state, but I just heard a story about them. They got charged, but it was a Goon Squad of 6 white cops who went around beating up on black people and harassing and terrorizing black people. It's funny you say Goon Squad because there was actually a group of like those 6 cops who called themselves the Goon Squad who went beating up black folk.